welcome to Public Awareness Weekend 2021. I'm Morgan, and today we are here with some members of the Coraopolis NAACP. Do you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Sure. My name is Carter Sproul. I'm the founding member and president of the branch, and with us is...
I'm Jen Partica. I'm the Public Relations and Communications Chair. I'm also active here in Moon. I'm the Vice President of our school board.
Awesome. Thank you so much for braving the cold and the COVID and coming in. Can you guys go ahead and give us a little bit of the background of the NAACP as a whole?
Yeah, sure. So the NAACP organization was founded in 1909 by W.E.B. Du Bois in New York as a response to all the violence against the black people in the country. It is the oldest civil rights organization in the United States, also the largest. Currently, there's over 2,000 branches like ours across the United States with over 2 million people, and all of them are volunteers as well. So, Jen, you want to add anything to that?
I think one of the key pieces I like to emphasize is when it was started by a diverse group of people, and it continues to be so today. Even within our own branch, we have people from all walks of life, from different socioeconomic statuses, as well as people of different races.
That's great. And just for those who may be watching that don't know, what does NAACP stand for, the acronym?
Sure, it stands for National Association for the Advancement of Colored People.
That's great. And would you be able to give us some history of the Coraopolis branch specifically?
Yeah, sure. So Coraopolis branch, it's actually brand new. I founded this branch last August, started recruiting in early July, and here we are today. We're about 150 members strong, and so we're very excited about what we're doing and what we're bringing to Coraopolis. And even though we're the Coraopolis branch, we service Moon Township, Crescent Township, Swickley, and Oakdale, and other surrounding communities as well.
That's great. That's great that you guys are able to expand outside of Coraopolis as well and be involved with the surrounding areas. We'll start with you. What is your role specifically?
So my role, I do a few things within the branch, but I chair the PR committee, and so we're talking about ways to get our name out there, ways to just teach people about who we are and that we're here. That's, you know, when you're new, that's the first one, is like putting your, you know, your stake in the ground and saying, hey, here we are. I'm also active on the political action committee, so holding forums so that we can meet candidates for offices, like we just did with people running for the Court of Common Pleas.
Wow, okay.
It's okay. I pay attention to this a lot, and I still get confused about some of the judicial branch stuff. So I'm active in that way, as well as the women in the NAACP committee. And so that's a group of specifically women within the branch who are, you know, right now I think a lot of us are still figuring out what do we want to do? How do we want this to look here?
How many women are involved?
It's about 16 currently.
In that group, yeah.
Yeah, and it empowers women and also looks out for kids as well. That's what the WIN committee focuses on.
That's great. What made you want to get involved, and how long have you been involved?
Well, I know Carter, and so I was recruited right from the get-go. I think for me, it is, I mean, we've had this national conversation, you know, since our nation was founded about race, but especially in the past year, I think it has been on the top of everyone's minds. And so just wondering, what can I do? What can I do that's positive, that will help people, that will lift all of us up, and understanding that this work for racial justice is not just the work of one group of people. It's, you know, all of us benefit when we're equal. So for me, it was the way to not just say that I care and make a Facebook post about it, but to actually say, I'm going to go out into my community and do the work.
That's great. And we're going to ask the same questions to you. What made you want to be involved?
Well, for me, it's a little different. I was president of my branch in Los Angeles. I lived in Los Angeles for about 30 years. I moved here to Moon Township about 3 years ago. And the closest branch to us in Allegheny County was actually in Pittsburgh, up in the Hill District. And you know, they weren't going to be supporting us way out here, and so I decided it'd be best to start a branch right here in Coraopolis where we can support ourselves. So that's my reason for starting the branch.
That's great. And you said the branch was just created recently, correct?
Correct.
All right. What made you want to get involved when you were in Los Angeles?
Well, you know, when I first started out as a member in Los Angeles, I would just send my check in just supporting the local branch of the NAACP. And then one year, the president had sent out letters asking for help with certain committees. And I said, you know what, it's time for me to really get involved with supporting my local branch. And I did, and chaired a few committees. And then he stepped down, and I stepped up. And so it's been a great experience, and I thought I could bring that experience here to the Coraopolis area as well.
That's great. What was the process like when you were trying to create the branch here in Coraopolis?
Well, it was about finding people to get involved, to really just join, really. So you have to come up with at least 100 adults before you can officially form a branch.
Oh.
And then once you have that and follow a few other steps that the NAACP puts forward, the board of directors will meet, and they officially will charter you as a founding branch.
Okay. Wow. I was unaware that it was 100 people just to get it started. That's,
yes.
That's awesome that you guys were able to do that and so quickly too.
Yeah.
So who can join the NAACP?
It's really open to anyone. You know, you just have to care about a cause and want to make a difference in your community, or you can just join just to say that you've joined. So it's local branches like ours, they're all volunteer organizations.
Okay.
So you give the time that you want to give. There are no pressures to do this, that, or the other. If you have time to serve on a committee, then so be it. If you don't have time at this time, then you don't have to. But anyone can join at any time.
And I want to emphasize this by letting people know that my children, a preschooler and an elementary school
Wow.
students, are also members of our local NAACP branch. So it really is everybody.
Wow, you kind of took the next question out of my mouth, which was what's the age range like? So do you have people as young as preschoolers then, just as old as you?
And they're not the
are
only
to
ones.
be?
They're not the
Wow.
only kids. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, there's no minimum age, no
Wow.
maximum age. So, and we have different things for every single age group.
Okay.
For example, for kids, we have junior council for ages up to 13.
Okay.
We have a youth council, ages up to 19. You can create a high school chapter and also a college chapter, which I'm trying to get started at Robert Morris as well.
Okay.
And then we also have young adults, which is ages 21 to 40.
Okay.
So we have a little something for everyone.
What does it look like then? What are the kids' roles when they get involved?
Well, it depends on which portion that they get involved with,
Okay.
right? So, but for the most part, they can act like one of the adult branches like we have. They elect officers. They can do activist things as well. They can do fundraising. They can support local causes. So it just depends on the kids, how many there are, and what their passions are.
That's great. You mentioned your kids are involved. How many kids are there?
I don't know the actual number of kid members.
Currently we have about 30 right now. They're
Okay.
various ages. A lot of them are like the age of her kids.
Okay.
And so we're still trying to form that as well. So with being brand new, you know, there's a lot of moving parts right now. And so, but we're going to narrow that in and get focused with the kids as well, too.
I also want to add,
Of course.
because I know that for young mothers, or excuse me, mothers of young children,
Right.
childcare can be a barrier to getting involved in any sort of group.
Right.
And so because of the pandemic, we were holding meetings outside at Shelley Jones Memorial Park in
Okay.
Coraopolis, which is right next to a playground. You know, there's a pavilion and the playground
Yes.
inside of the fence. And so a number of us were showing up with our kids to the meetings, and then the kids play and you can watch them as we're
Yeah.
having our meeting. So it was a family-friendly sort of way to have people be involved. And
Right.
that, I think that just makes it much more accessible to
course.
everyone. So I want to make sure people are aware of that.
That's great that you don't have to, find a sitter while you attend. It's for all ages, so all ages can
Yeah.
attend, especially like you said, being outside, there's a playground.
Correct.
I think that's great. Kind of an overarching question I would love each of you to answer. What makes the NAACP unique?
Well, just all of the moving parts of the organization that we have, as far as all the committees that we have. We talked about women in the NAACP.
Yes.
and how they support empowering women and children, how we have our youth chapters, junior youth council, high school chapters, so on and so forth. We also delve into politics a little bit too. We have a political action committee like she mentioned. Now we are a 501c4 branch, okay, which means we're a nonprofit, and we're not allowed to endorse any candidates for office. But we are having meet and greet forums for candidates, which gives our membership and the community a chance to meet candidates for office like they wouldn't normally have. For example, the Court of Common Pleas, when you go to the election box, you see a list of judges, right? You just see names. You don't know who they are. Well, during these meet and greet forums, we're giving the community a chance to meet these candidates and hear what they have to say so they can make an informed decision at the ballot box instead of just checking a name that they like.
So just to reiterate, you guys do not endorse any candidates.
We do not endorse
then.
any candidates.
Can you talk about then, I guess you kind of touched on about the Political Action Committee. So is that just local people running for an office, or is that as high up as the presidency? Or
right. We want to concentrate really on local candidates.
Okay.
Because a lot of times during elections, they get overlooked. Okay.
Right.
You don't know who the candidates are or anything like that. So we want to concentrate on local candidates because they're the ones that have the most impact on your community that you live in. Okay, so they're most important. School board members, like Jen is a school board member.
Right.
Mayors of townships, council members of the townships. So these people are making decisions that affect you directly. Okay, of course the President of the United States is important, and you deal with that too. That goes without saying.
Right.
But we emphasize the local candidates running for local offices as well.
That's great. Having an informed public is definitely such an important part, especially when you're going into a voting booth.
Yeah.
Going back, how about you? What makes the NAACP unique to you?
So for me, I have been a part of organizations that were grassroots, like a couple local people are starting from the bottom, and organizations that are that have a wider support network because they're established. So what I was really excited about to have an NAACP branch here is that it is the oldest civil rights organization in the country. It's the largest. We don't have to sit around and say, hey guys, what's our logo going to be? Or like, what's our mission statement?
It's all taken care of.
Yeah, no, it is. And so you really feel like you're stepping into this long history that I admire. And it feels exciting to be a part of that and to say that I'm going to bring what I've heard about in a larger context, I'm going to bring that right here into my community. Having the opportunity to do that, to me, is what's really exciting.
That's great. You mentioned the mission statement. So what is the mission statement and the overarching goal for the NAACP?
Go ahead.
Yeah. It's to fight for civil rights for everyone in our country. I think maybe sometimes people might get confused and think it's just for one thing or the other, but we are all better off when everyone is equal, has equal access to their rights in our communities, and so that's the overarching goal.
That's great. We'll go back to you. What does a commitment look like when you want to be involved with the Coraopolis NAACP or to serve on a committee? What's the commitment?
Well, what happens is as far as commitment, you talk about a time frame of commitment.
Yeah.
Again, it's whatever time you want to give. For example, our committees, most of them meet maybe once a month, some of them twice a month. The WIN committee, they meet every 2 weeks. Not all committees are like that, but once a month, committees meet maybe for about an hour. That's about it. We have general membership meetings once a month. That is the third Saturday of every month, and they're open to the public. And we also have an executive committee that's not open to the public. That is for the officers and the committee chairs to meet and discuss issues that they may have and talk about what we want to present at the general membership meeting.
That's great. Going back to the executive committee, what are some of these issues that they're discussing to present?
Well, right now, seeing that we're new, we're dealing with all the committees, focusing on starting these committees.
Okay.
How many members they have, what goals they're setting for each particular committee. Some are more advanced than others. Our WIN committee is probably one of the most advanced, along with our political action committee.
Okay.
With some of the things that they're doing. Our health committee, like we said, is putting together the form for COVID-19 and the vaccine, and having a doctor answering all the questions about that. And our political action committee and the WIN committee are setting up meet and greet forums. We're going to be doing that throughout the year, all the way up to the general election in November. So different things like that.
Are there any committees that we haven't discussed yet that you would like to talk about?
Yeah, there are several committees. There is the Economic Development Committee,
Okay.
Community Coordination. Those are going to focus on what's happening in the townships
Okay.
specifically, getting the black community together, black businesses, and focusing on the black businesses, advertising for them, things like that. So there's those committees. There is legal redress is what we have. Legal redress is basically when you have a complaint. Let's
Okay.
say a landlord a complaint against a landlord.
Okay.
They call you up and you have issues. It goes to our legal redress committee, and they deal with that particular issue. So there's legal redress. There's
talk about ACT-SO.
ACT-SO. There's ACT-SO. We're going to start that. That's an acronym that stands for Afro-Academic,
Okay.
Cultural, Technological, and Scientific Olympics. It's a mouthful, but
Did great.
so ACT-SO is a program for African American students, grades 9 through 12, and it's a competition of the mind type of
Okay.
program, where they will select from 6 categories: STEM, visual arts, performing arts, humanities, culinary, and business. And there are 32 subcategories under that. They choose between 1 to 3 of those subcategories to compete in. And it's all individual. There's no team thing. So you're able to show your skills. Is what you want to do.
That's great.
And you have a chance to win some prizes. And if you score between 95 and 100, you have a chance to go to the national competition, which takes place at the National NAACP convention.
Wow. Where does that convention held?
Well, it's different places every year.
Okay.
Yeah, this past year was scheduled to be in New Jersey, but of
Gotcha.
course we know what happens
Yes.
there. This year, coming up in 2021, if it happens, I believe it's going to be in Boston, so we'll see
Okay.
how it goes.
Going back, you guys had talked about setting up groups in high schools and Robert Morris as well. How has that process been going?
Well, Robert Morris, a couple of their students came to one of our meetings.
Okay.
And so they have been doing their own thing. And so the college chapters can operate as a separate entity, okay? So they'll form their own chapter, their own officers,
Right.
do their own activism, their own committees, everything themselves. The only thing about a college chapter is that they'll say that they are a college chapter
Okay.
within the service area of our branch.
Gotcha.
Okay, so they'll operate completely independently. High schools is completely different. You know, we go into a high school and organize a chapter, much like one of the clubs
Okay.
at a high school. It'd be the same
Right.
thing. But they'll have some of our advisors to oversee some of the things that they're doing.
Okay.
And we did have members, when they were paying their membership dues, give extra to pay for students who want to
Wow.
join. So if you're a student member, there is a smaller fee that you would pay than, say, like an adult member. And I mean, we're not talking huge bucks. Like, you know, my adult membership was $30.
Okay.
So yeah, so we would like to have more youth involved, and you know, it's about empowering people. I think that's really the earlier when we were talking about what's unique.
Yes.
Addressing some really serious issues, but doing it in a way that empowers people, that, you know, we're here to make a difference, to make things positive, to lift people up.
That's great. You had mentioned that you have regular meetings and they're open to the public. I was checking out your guys' Facebook page, which is phenomenal, super informative. Is that the best place for people to go to find out information about meetings or anything coming up?
Well, by the time this airs, we're going to have a website.
Awesome.
It's going to be called the Coraopolis NAACP.org.
Gotcha.
Will be the address of the website. That website is actually ready to go, and as soon as we're chartered, we're going to release that
Awesome.
to the public. So again, by the time this airs, that'll be good to go.
That's great, and we will make sure we have all of that information on the screen. This has been a crazy year, I think we can say. How have you guys been impacted by COVID?
Well, for one thing, we can't have in-person meetings. So
Okay.
we do all of our meetings, committee meetings, general meetings, everything over Zoom, much like I'm sure everybody else does. So that is the biggest thing. And it's had a big impact on recruiting new members as well, and doing some of the things that we want to do out in the community. So it's had a big impact on us as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, also like from a personal standpoint,
Right.
even though we can't, during the summer when we were meeting outside but at a pavilion, I got to tell you, this is some of the only times I was getting out there, you know? And it's really frustrating because I want to hug people.
Yes.
I mean, you know, we're a really fun group,
Right.
and you see people, it's like, yeah, you, hey, you know. So that has been a little limiting, but at the same time, it was one of those like, oh, I had a place, like a really fun place to go. It always feels
That's great.
good when you walk away from one of our meetings. You feel like I'm going to go conquer the world,
Yes.
you know? And so for me, actually, it turning cold, I knew I was going to lose
Aw.
those in-person meetings, and it made me pretty sad. But I know, you know, we're clearly on a trajectory that we're just going to keep building. So I know
Yes.
we'll be back there.
That's great. Definitely here to adapt for sure. How can people get involved?
Well, they can just send me an email, really,
Okay.
to Coraopolis NAACP@gmail.com. Ask for an application. I'll give them information to fill it out and send it in. And then we have a Google form where it lists all of our 20 committees.
Okay.
And it also describes each particular committee and what it's all about. And they can just choose up to 3 different committees that they'd like to get involved in.
Awesome.
It's really as simple as that.
Great. And you mentioned there was a fee to join?
To become a paid member.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for adults, it's $30. Students and kids, $10 to $15, depending on which particular option they choose, and age as well.
Great. And then going back to that fee, you mentioned there was a fund to sponsor students. Do you think that's something that's going to continue to grow?
I mean, I'll continue to give money
That's great.
personally.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so that fund is actually set up for students and adults, actually, who can't
Okay.
afford to join at this time because of COVID. We know a lot of parents have lost their jobs and everything like that, and can't afford really to maybe spend some extra dollars on that. So there is a fund for that, started by Leah Bauer. She's one of our members, and she's raised over $1,000 between her and her friends for this particular fund.
Wow.
And some have actually taken advantage of it, so we're very excited about it.
That's great. Another like overarching question as we run out of time here. What is the hope for the future with the Coraopolis NAACP?
Well, the hope for the future is that we continue to grow, make an impact on the communities that we serve, and develop partnerships as we go along, and again, just make a positive impact on the communities that we serve, really.
That's great. Is there anything you want to add for your hope for the future?
I mean, I feel as if, I grew up in a rural, mostly white community, and we just didn't talk about race. You didn't talk about it. It was touchy. It was uncomfortable. And as a woman now, in this day and age, raising my children, I want people to be able to talk about it. I hope that a big piece of what we do is we impact the community so that we can have conversations, productive conversations, and that will move all of us in a better place, because we can't make anything better if we're too scared to talk about it, right?
How can people continue to educate themselves? Are there any places specifically that people should be looking, or?
And come to our meeting.
Of course.
Yeah,
Of
exactly.
course.
Just come to our
Definitely.
meetings and and share. You know, if you have questions or concerns about anything, come to one of our meetings we'll be freed and happy to help you and work together to find a solution to the problems that you may have.
And my general advice to everybody is, say you come to one of our meetings, is you listen, right?
Yes.
That's when I've learned the most at meetings, is I listen to people, and rather than judging or jumping to conclusions, or if I feel a little defensive, to say, no, you know, this is them, this is their reality, let's listen to them and believe them,
Of course.
right? Showing up, listening, and believing is really the right step.
That's great. Is there anything we didn't get to that you guys wanted to touch on before we sign off?
I think you've done an excellent job interviewing. How about that?
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming in today. It's definitely been a crazy year. We hope nothing but the best for you in the future.
Thank you.
And we will be right back with more Public Awareness Weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.